Splatoon 3 is a great game. The multiplayer modes are all fun to play, all of the weapons are fun to use, and the game overall feels very balanced. This is what I would say if I was stupid, and had not played the game hardly at all. All in all, Splatoon 3 has issues, but they are typically minimal in Turf War and Anarchy. So long as you're decent, you can still have a great time. But you didn't click on this video to hear me talk about Turf War, did you? Salmon Run. Oh, Salmon Run. I love Salmon Run quite a lot, and play it rather frequently, which is why I also hate it with a passion. This mode has so many issues that become apparent once you get better at it, and today, I'm going to talk about these issues and how I think Nintendo should go about fixing them should Salmon Run be brought back for Splatoon 4, which it should. I'm going to be splitting these issues up into categories, which I'll talk about one at a time. I should note that not all of these issues are equal. Some of them I think would just make a good change. And all of this is my opinion. Of course, my opinion is also correct. Now, the first offense that is easily noticed is from the enemies, but I'm not going to talk about them much in this video, as I would like to analyze each of them further in a future video, so I will hit the major points. The diversity of the enemies are fairly okay, though some are basically just specials that use the specials over and over. But the difficulty in defeating them varies wildly. We all know about how bad the flyfish is, but the underlying problem is mostly the number of enemies that can hurt you without being near you, or can slow you down for the more offensive ones to splat you. Of the 11 boss salmonids in the game, only 5 of them actually consistently move towards the player to try and kill them. In contrast, 4 of them can hurt you from extremely far away, and 2 of those ones can hurt you from anywhere. The other 2 try to prevent you from moving and from killing other salmonids. Obviously, the biggest issue are the ones that can hit you from anywhere. Flyfish and stingers do not even attempt to come closer to the egg basket, making it difficult, if not impossible, to get all their eggs into the basket. So if too many of them appear in higher difficulties, it basically becomes an automatic loss. And these enemies do not have restrictions on how many can appear in a game. They can appear as frequently as flipper floppers, which are somewhat easier to beat. This means that games can often be decided by bad luck, as when multiple of these enemies appear, they become exponentially harder to beat, especially flyfish. The painting boss salmonids also have big issues, being drizzlers and fish sticks, as they can be hard to kill depending on your weapon. That is actually the main problem with many enemy types. Many boss salmonids cannot be splatted very easily with certain weapons. You need a ranged weapon with good damage to take out a steelhead, a rapid-fire weapon to take out fish sticks, and a weapon with good paint to take out a flipper flopper. This usually isn't much of a problem, as most days have somewhat balanced weapon selections, but it is still very annoying, as sometimes there are enemies on the field that you need to take out in order to win, but the people who have the weapons that can deal with them the easiest aren't dealing with them. To resolve all of these issues, I would suggest changing the enemies for the next game. I won't discuss this much here, as again, I plan to talk about this more in a future video, but the enemies should be more balanced. Make more enemies that come near the egg basket so that you don't need to make as many trips to the shore, where you will likely get splatted, to kill the 2 flyfish that are down there. It would help the game to be less annoying for sure, and it would likely attract more fans if the enemies were all about the same difficulty to deal with. The next major point is in the available stages. There are currently 7 stages in Salmon Run, and they are not all equal in quality. Marooner's Bay is the scum of the earth, with terrible basket placement and being absolutely enormous, giving backliners even more dominance. And High Tide is ridiculously small and linear, while Low Tide is decent. Spawning Grounds has the same issues as Marooner's Bay, though its basket placement is more manageable. Even still, it is far too big. Backliners have more dominance, High Tide is too small and has a spot that backliners can go to that is surrounded by grates, and Low Tide is annoying to deal with, as enemies basically come from one of 3 narrow hallways. Salmonid Smokeyard is a bit better than the 2 previously mentioned, but still has issues. It doesn't have the size issue that Marooner's Bay and Spawning Grounds have, but the stage has a terrible gimmick, basically causing it to be split in half, making the side with the egg basket rather small. High Tide makes this issue even more apparent, as the stage feels almost unmanageable at times. Low tide is decent though, and it is the first terrain spoken of that I would say is somewhat good. Sockeye Station is fine. It's a bit big in my opinion, and I wish the egg basket was a little closer to the shore, but the elevated perch makes this stage a good bit better, especially for long-range weapons. High tide is a bit small, but again, the raised area makes it much more manageable. Low tide is pretty good as well, as it provides easy ways to get to the shore. Bone Rattle Arena is strange, but manageable. The egg basket being so high up looks like it would be a problem, but the egg basket being directly in the middle of the stage helps it quite a bit, and the ink rails make it easier to get up, along with the inkable walls. The only issue I have with it is that I think the raised area is a tad bit too small. High tide is pretty decent, as the raised area can make for a good escape route, and low tide is fine as well. Now to the stages that I consider to be really good. Goldfish and Hydroplank can get rough, as the boxed-in areas are easily flooded with salmonids, but the number of inkable walls make it much better, as there are elevated positions surrounding the egg basket. The shore isn't too far away, and it is overall pretty good. High tide gets even more crazy, but it can be managed most of the time, and it can be easier to get a large number of eggs if you know what you're doing. Low tide is kind of annoying, but it's still okay. Now, the best stage, Jam and Salmon Junction. Though the egg basket is far from the shore, the linear multi-layered nature of the stage makes it easy to manage the enemies coming in and get to any problematic backliners. High tide is smaller than I would like, but it is still okay most of the time, and low tide is pretty good as well. Overall, though there are great stages, I would say there should be some improvement. Firstly, do not bring back spawning grounds in Marooner's Bay. They are so poorly designed that I'm surprised someone played on those stages and said, "Yup, these are good to go." In designing new stages, gimmicks are fine, as long as they don't decrease mobility in space, like on Salmonid Smokeyard. If they are, add more ways to get around, like on Bone Rattle Arena. I would also like to suggest making more stages with the egg basket at the center of the stage rather than at the far back, as that usually gets annoying to deal with. Jam and Salmon Junction only works because enemies come in from only two sides and it is easy to get back to the egg basket. Finally, no more narrow pathways. Structure the stages so that the player can get to where they want to go without having to try to plow through enemies every time. Hopefully, better stages will be made in the future, and awful ones won't be brought back. Next up is weapon rotations. Now, I think that some people's biggest issue with Salmon Run is that they can't use the weapon they want to use. Some days you just want to use a splatter shot, you know? But then this game says, nope, you have to use either the squeezer, the explosher, the squiffer, or some other random weapon that will most likely not be a weapon you like. Oh, and you can't choose which one you get either. Actually, this lineup is a great demonstration for another issue with this system. This lineup totally sucks. The squeezer is only good if you spam the firing button, which gets tiring after a while. The explosher is a great ranged weapon that has the power to take out flyfish barrels, so it is great to have on a team, though it doesn't excel in taking out other enemy types. It's a very good weapon to have on any Salmon Run team, unless someone else on your team has a long-range weapon. Why in the name of gaming is this paired up with a sniper? Yeah, the Squiffer is one of the better snipers in the game, but that leaves two players unable to go in to collect eggs without dying most of the time. Well, at least the other two weapon users can go in, right? If the fourth weapon is completely random, there is a good chance that the weapon obtained is another sniper, or a splatling, or a stringer. In any case, at least 15% of the time, it's going to be another long-range weapon, making this lineup even worse. This is probably the worst lineup I've ever seen, so others usually aren't as bad, but you get my point. It is completely up to Nintendo whether you get a good lineup or not, and this greatly hurts the desire to play it, especially considering the number of weapons that are not very good for Salmon Run. Another sub-problem derived from this is the effectiveness of each weapon. A lot of weapons suck in Salmon Run. Snipers are often unfun to use, because they don't have the ability to move around as well as other weapons. But at least these ranged weapons can take out backliners easily, right? Actually, snipers are the worst weapons to take these enemies out. Flyfish can only be killed with bombs and specials, meaning unless you want to use a special, you need to get in close to them to kill them. Snipers cannot do this very easily, though this is a task that can be easily performed by the worst ranged weapons. Stingers can be shot at, but if you are at a safe distance, you will need several charged shots to take it out, as each pot needs to be shot individually, so only the Sniper and Bamboozler can quickly take them out from a distance, and they're still slower than all shooters, blasters, splatlings, and almost every other weapon. Other weapons simply cannot kill certain enemies on their own. Good luck taking out a fish stick or a stinger with a dynamo roller, and weapons like Splooshomatic, Luna Blaster, and Dapple Dualies have almost no hope when it comes to taking out a steelhead. Other weapons simply don't have enough DPS to take out a Drizzler before it puts its shield back around itself, meaning that they need to wait for it to fire off 2 Ink Storms to kill it, and likely have to try and chase after it to splat it. To deal with these issues, I would greatly encourage Nintendo to allow the player to choose whatever weapon they want to use in Salmon Run. The problems that stem from not being able to splat certain enemies would then become the user's problem, though this issue should at least be mitigated for the next game. Upping the damage for various weapons like the Dynamo Roller and some shooters would be good too, as it would give more of a reason to use them. Next, I would like to talk about the Night Waves. Many of them have big issues that definitely need to be dealt with. The 2 worst ones are Grillers and Glowflies. Grillers is terrible to deal with, as they move fast and are hard to hit at times, and the amount of HP they have can be ridiculous and hard to drain if the weapon lineup is bad enough. Pair that with the absurd number of small fry that appear during these waves, and this is easily the most annoying wave to put up with. Short-range weapons have to run from the grillers and try to take out the small fry, and anything that can shoot the grillers are either being chased by the grillers themselves or the small fry, which is particularly problematic for chargers and splatlings, who need to stand mostly still to charge up a shot and can't easily take out small fry in that number if they're too close. Glowflies is almost as bad, as snipers are nearly useless and everything else can be easily mowed down by the salmonids. The reason I would say grillers are worse is because glowflies can easily be cheesed if there is a roller on the team. Both of these night waves are terrible, but they get worse depending on the stage. Grillers and glowflies on high tide are exponentially worse, as they can come in even faster and there is less room to run away. And some stages make it even worse than that. Stages like Marooner's Bay on high tide is almost impossible, as there are very few places you can easily jump off a ledge to quickly escape a griller, and all of those places are far away from the egg basket, so good luck getting all the eggs you need, let alone surviving. Glowflies becomes way harder the smaller the stage, as there is less time between swarms, so these modes are most dependent on luck, which is why they are awful. Fog is mostly fine, and presents a good challenge. The fog provides a higher difficulty, and the added goldies are a good trade-off. These waves have a great risk and reward system, and are very fun to play most of the time. Gushers are annoying to put up with, though they aren't usually that bad. These waves are also often decided by luck, as the difficulty changes drastically depending on the tide and the stage, and if it takes too long to find the goldie, it will make it very hard to win. Motherships are mostly fine. Even if you have a short-range weapon, you can still get eggs if you're quick enough. Mudmouths are okay as well. Golden ones can be tricky to deal with, as Quahawks can stop bombs from going into their mouths, but it's fine most of the time. Quahawk swarms are actually the best night waves in the game, in my opinion. The cannons make the game so much better, as backliners are easily dealt with them, and the cannon shots are so powerful that they can take out most enemies in 1 or 2 shots. Finally, giant tornado waves are only a breath of fresh air. In all my time playing Salmon Run, not once have I ever lost on a giant tornado wave because of how easy they are. If anything, these waves are just a freebie, and are actually a little boring because of how repetitive they are. Now, I'm not going to talk about how to fix any of the bad ones, as I think the bad ones should just be removed completely. Grillers, goldies, giant tornadoes, and gushers are the ones that I think should go, as the other ones don't have many issues. I may make a video on what kind of night waves I would add in the future though. And now, we talk about the dumbest aspect of Salmon Run, the reward system. I'm sure you've all witnessed or heard someone talk about the awful reward system, so this section is basically dedicated to those who just want to hear someone else rant about how bad the rewards are. First of all, why are the scales so hard to get? You get like 5 bronze scales and 1 silver scale on average for every king salmonid you fight, which is supposed to happen every 5 shifts, but actually seems to happen around every 10 shifts, because even if your meter is full, if everyone else's meters aren't filled up enough, it doesn't even matter. But let's say it takes 8 shifts to do one on average. Do you know how long it takes to complete 8 shifts? I'll tell you how many. If you wait for 20 seconds on average between each match, and make it to the end of the third wave, it will take you about 50 minutes to fight 1 king salmonid. All this for 8 bronze scales. Oh, well then the reward should be fairly cheap then, right? Wrong. Do you know how many of each scale it would take for you to get one of each item? To get every item, you would need 27,319 bronze scales, 8,004 silver scales, and 3,109 gold scales. Do you realize how long it would take you to purchase every item? If you earn an average of 6 bronze scales per king salmonid fight, you would need to fight about 4,554 king salmonids to get all the bronze scales. If it takes 50 minutes to fight a single king salmonid, that would take you about 227,658 minutes to complete, or 3,794 hours, or 158 straight days of playing to get that many. If you play Salmon Run so that you beat a single king salmonid a day, which is about all I could take with the current situation, it would take well over 10 years to get all the bronze scales you need. Even if you grinded Big Run and Triumvirates, it would still take at least 6 or 7 years to get everything. And that's only bronze scales. The other ones are much more rare. On average, one would probably get about 1 silver scale per game, and 1 gold scale every 10 games. Granted, now you can earn silver and gold scales simply through playing the game and getting rewards, but it would still take years of playing to unlock everything, considering the fact that 3 items cost 333 gold scales each. What the heck, Nintendo? They are literally just banners. They put these in before they added the scale capsules too. To anyone out there who actually unlocked one of these legitimately before they added scale capsules, I salute you and mourn for your sanity. Expensive items is actually one of the main reasons this reward system sucks. It's not like, oh, I just got 5 more bronze scales, guess I can go buy a couple things. Anything that is actually worth it is too expensive. Far too many clothing items cost 800 bronze scales. Come on Nintendo, I just want the Octolite goggles. Why do I need to sell my soul to you just so that I can get a piece of gear? Also, all of the work outfits are bought with silver scales. Again, obtaining them with the scale capsules available is not as bad. But before, if you wanted the white slop suit, you had to lock in. Even now, it will take forever to buy them all due to their prices. Most of them cost 150 scales, so it still takes forever to get them. If you have calmed down a bit, because I have, let me remind you of something very important. This game was supervised the whole way through. Many people saw this currency system, and many had the ability to order it to be changed. But even though all these people were told about and viewed this currency system, not one of them saw a problem with it. All those people, and they all said, yup, this is totally fine, and I'm sure our customers will approve. Think about that for a second, and let the rage seep into your bones like it has in mine. So yeah, the obvious fix here is to just make the items cheaper and or make the currency easier to get. Like, I don't know, why can't we get 1 scale for each successfully completed wave? Why can't the base rates for defeating a King Salmonid be what they are for Triumvirate or Big Runs? If there is an issue with people not wanting to play it anymore because they got all the rewards, why not add some purchasable items that can be purchased multiple times? If they allow people to choose their weapons, why not add Grizzco weapon tickets that can be purchased and used for 1 shift? Why not allow people to exchange scales for money? Come on Nintendo, this can't be that hard. On a similar note, non-scale rewards should also be a bit better. Yes, I like how you can get capsules with goodies and clothes obtainable only through playing Salmon Run and all the ability chunks, but why diminish the rewards so much after the first few rounds? I think that you should still get money from Salmon Run apart from capsules. Maybe a little less than from Turf War, but why not? And why can't you level up from playing Salmon Run? I'd be 50 levels higher than I am now if I could. The problem with the rewards is that after you get all the main ones, you don't get any more. So it's like they are encouraging you to go play something else. Even if the main rewards become diminished, I would personally like to have a good reason to play beyond earning all the rewards past a few ability chunks and a measly amount of catalog points. Maybe remove the current system and just get one random capsule after every game or something. I don't know, but it should be better. Okay, here comes the lightning round. This is a list of more minor things that I would like them to add in to Salmon Run, but aren't necessarily required to make the game better. First, small fry. They are annoying, but weak. They are not weak enough. Every weapon should be able to one-shot it. Shooters have a huge disadvantage against them because they don't all one-shot them. Small fry should have 1 HP. Change my mind. Second, add more modes. I heard Captain Astronaut say they should make Salmon Run more like the DLC in Splatoon 3, where it's kind of a roguelike and you pick abilities. I like that idea. Will it happen? Probably not, but it'd be cool to see. Even a single player mode would be cool. Maybe give it its own story or something, I don't know. Third, splat bombs. They are too weak. They have not been buffed from the other modes. The outside hitbox is not even enough to splat a small fry. I say make the inside blast damage to be 400, so they can take out a Quahog, and the outside hitbox to be 100, so even Chum will go down to it. It would greatly increase the utility. Also, maybe make them cheaper. Fourth, bombs and specials. It would be cool if we could pick the bombs and specials we use for Salmon Run. Many specials are great, and many are bad. Triple Ink Strike is definitely better than Crab Tank. Crab Tank and Wave Breaker both absolutely stink. I don't want to use them. Let me pick Ink Strike or Splashdown, since they are way more useful. And for bombs, they don't all have to be available, but so long as Splat Bombs, Suction Bombs, and Burst Bombs are available, it would be cool. Give Splat Bombs the same utility as it currently does, give Burst Bombs less power but cheaper usage, making Flyfish way easier to beat, and give Suction Bombs piercing, so it can damage Steelheads and Flyfish, also making Flyfish easier to beat. Maybe give Suction Bombs just enough damage to kill a Flyfish, but you need 2 to kill a Steelhead, just so it's not too broken. Fifth, make it cheaper to throw an egg. It is too expensive. Lower the cost, please. Finally, utilize egg cannons more in stages. The Grand Big Run was fun because the stage had cannons everywhere. Imagine how much better Salmon and Smokeyard would be if it essentially had 2 egg baskets, one on each side. It would be cool. Do it, Nintendo. Okay, and that about wraps it up for this video. I do hope that Nintendo does Salmon Run better in Splatoon 4, and hopefully some of the changes they make will be similar to the ones I suggested here. If you like this kind of content, please feel free to do absolutely nothing and go about your day as normal. Thanks for watching.